Dead men tell no tales, but their ships speak volumes. Welcome to the Cursed Compass, where we explore the darkest maritime mysteries. Local lore along the shores of Japan's Tsugaru Strait is filled with stories of phantom figures. For decades, residents have reported seeing wandering souls standing near the crashing surf, trapped in the mist. But these stories are rooted in a very real, very physical event. In 1954, these waters became the site of the deadliest maritime disaster in Japanese history. The tragedy centers on the Tōya Maru. At the time, she was a celebrated vessel, a massive ferry connecting the islands of Hokkaido and Honshu. Today, she is remembered as the Titanic of Japan. The ghost stories are the shadow of a real event, a night when an engineering marvel was overcome by a storm it was never designed to withstand. To understand how it failed, you have to look at what the Tōya Maru was built to do. It was a train ferry. Instead of slowly unloading cargo in port, workers could roll entire trains directly off the dock and into the ship. While this saved massive amounts of time, it introduced a severe weakness. Trains are incredibly heavy, and placing hundreds of tons of steel rail cars above the waterline pushed the center of gravity dangerously high. Because the rail deck ran the entire length, engineers couldn't install standard watertight bulkheads. The only thing keeping the ocean out were massive sea doors at the stern. On September 26, 1954, Typhoon Marie was barreling toward the strait. The Tōya Maru delayed its departure, absorbing extra passengers from a smaller, canceled ferry. By 5 p.m., the rain stopped. The sky cleared. Believing the worst of the weather had passed, the captain gave the order to depart. He thought he was sailing into calm waters, entirely unaware he was steering a top-heavy vessel straight into a stalled storm. The clearing skies were an illusion. Typhoon Marie had merely slowed down and gathered strength over the Sea of Japan. Shortly after the Tōya Maru left port at 6:39 p.m., the storm slammed into the vessel. Realizing the danger of deep water, the captain dropped anchor in the shallow waters of Hakodate Bay to ride out the gale. But the sheer force of the storm surge and howling winds proved too strong. The anchor lost its grip and the ship began to drag. As the anchor slipped, the ferry was pushed into a beam-on position. This is the worst possible angle for a V-shaped hull. Instead of cutting through the waves with its bow, the swelling ocean hits the broadside of the ship, causing it to roll violently and uncontrollably. With every massive roll, the ocean hammered against the ferry's stern. Finally, the structural pressure broke the weak sea doors. Because the train deck lacked watertight compartments, the seawater had a free run of the entire ship. Thousands of gallons poured down into the lower decks, completely flooding the engine room and snuffing out the steam engines. Without power to hold its bow into the wind, the Tōya Maru was dead in the water. The typhoon now controlled every movement of the unpowered 4,000-ton hull. Inside, the ship blacked out. Over 1,000 passengers were trapped in complete darkness as the ferry listed precariously over the towering ocean swells. Down on the cargo deck, the severe rolling put immense strain on the heavy iron chains securing the rail cars. Under the constant violent tilting, those restraints snapped. Dozens of train carriages broke loose. They tumbled across the open deck in the dark, crushing the passengers huddled among them. The shifting weight of all that steel pushed the listing ferry past its point of recovery. The open deck and heavy payload that made the ship a marvel of mid-century transport became the literal instrument of the passengers' destruction. At 10:43 p.m., just a few hundred meters from the shoreline of Nanahe Beach, the Tōya Maru capsized completely. Out of the 1,300 people on board, over 1,150 died in the freezing water. When dawn broke, the storm cleared to reveal a horrific scene. Locals gathered on the beach to find shattered life rafts, splintered wood, and hundreds of bodies that had washed ashore overnight. The death toll included over 1,000 Japanese civilians, the ship's crew, and 35 American soldiers stationed in the region. This staggering loss proved that hauling entire trains across a treacherous, typhoon-prone strait was an unacceptable risk. To ensure a disaster like this could never happen again, the Japanese government began construction on the Seikan Tunnel. Today, bullet trains make the journey between the islands entirely underground, safely bypassing the unpredictable weather 790 feet below the surface. The 33-mile corridor provides a safe, silent passage far below the seafloor, directly beneath the waters where the victims of the Tōya Maru were lost.